Figure Standard Ultraman Trigger is a figure that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. Figure Standard, which I'll shorten to FRS going forward, is a line of plastic model kits of many series, examples being Gundam, Kamen Rider, and Digimon. It's also a line that's not a stranger to the Ultra series, as they've made model kits of the Animanga Ultraman suits. They looked really cool, even had some neat LED gimmicks, though I was never interested in picking them up since I'm not as big of a fan of the Animanga as I am of the main series. Which is why when Bandai announced that they were making model kits of Ultraman Trigger and Ultraman Zero, which would be releasing in November and December this year respectively, I was stoked. I had grown an appreciation to model kits since I've built some before and thought the process was pretty fun, even if some of them were stressful and I'd never want to do that ever again. I was also really excited for it since I knew it was going to be cheaper than the average action figure, which for the topic of this video, it would be the SH Figuarts Ultraman Trigger. This is because assembly of the figure would be done by you instead of the factory workers that would put the figures together. November 2022 comes in which an event in Malaysia is held, known as the Ultra Heroes Tour Southeast Asia, where they show many figures at the event. The figures that caught my eye were the FRS Trigger and Zero that were on display. Which is funny considering the fact that SHF Decker was the main attraction there. I thought they looked really nice, though it was way glossier than I was anticipating. But even with that in mind, I was still super stoked for the figure to release to the public. And lo and behold, it released in Japan a bit later. Of course, I couldn't make out what the reviews that were uploaded to YouTube were saying since I can't understand Japanese. But they sounded pleased with the figure, it looked really cool, and it didn't seem like there was many issues, so I was still set on getting the figure when it arrived here. I knew it was gonna take a bit since shipping it from Japan to Malaysia was gonna take weeks, so I waited patiently for it to arrive to the store that I was waiting for it to ship to. It arrived, and without wasting any time, I went to put it together immediately. The process of building it was actually really simple, and it was relaxing throughout the whole thing. I can't tell if that's just the nature of this kit, or if it's my growing experience with model kits though. Now that we've got all the intro stuff out of the way, let's actually talk about the figure itself. The sculpting on this guy is incredible. The proportions are good, and the pieces assembled to hold this guy together hold up pretty well. The eyes are white, which is an interesting choice since the eyes are supposed to be yellow, but I suppose they glow bright enough in the show that they might as well be white. The gold parts all around the body have stickers that you don't need to put on, but they certainly add completeness to it, and with the arms and legs it's literally mandatory since they don't have yellow parts to put on them. Admittedly, I haven't put all of mine on though, but that's because some of them are really small, mostly at the head. I haven't put the stickers on the inner parts of the ears because they're way too small and demand a lot of precision, and with my shaky hands I can't actually apply that properly. Overall, the sculpting on this guy is great, and I have little problems with it. A good sculpt isn't the only thing this guy has going for him though. He also comes with some other cool things. To start off, we have alternate hands. He comes with a pair of fists, which is to be expected from an action figure, a pair of chopping hands, and a pair of open hands. These hands are really fun to mix and match with, and you can even recreate his signature pose with it. Aside from alternate hands, he also comes with many cool accessories. To start off, we have an alternate color timer to display when he's low on energy. Attaching it is pretty simple. You simply lift up the one that's already in there with the alternate one. It's definitely an accessory more so for photo purposes, cause I don't know who would want to display their Ultraman with this. Next up, we have the Superior Ray effect part. This is a neato effect part, though admittedly it looks a bit simplistic and weak, but I'll take it over the SH Figuarts one, which I think looks too strong and has too much going on. The way you put it on is also interesting. It's not a beam stuck to a hand like it is usually, but rather something that connects to the hand via a clip. It's pretty easy. Simply clip the ball joint of the chopping hand into the slot of the effect part, and then put the hand on the forearm like you would normally. The hard part is getting triggered to do the Superior Ray pose. I'll talk about it more in detail later, but let's just say that with enough patience you can get him to do it just fine. Finally, we have my favorite of the accessories, the circle arms. Though if I were to nitpick a bit, it's kind of a shame that you can't add the little yellow parts, but I understand why, they're really small after all. Another thing I like to point out is that the hand holding the handle is actually sculpted into the handle, which is nice since it removes the effort of trying to put the thing in the hand. Attaching it is just like attaching the Superior Ray, you just attach it like you would a hand. Now let's go over why this one's my favorite of the accessories, because you can actually switch between the Power Claw and Sky Arrow modes. This caught me by surprise since to my knowledge they never advertised this, but this is quite a treat. It even saves them the trouble of having to make new accessories for the power and sky type forms if they ever make those. Overall, the accessories on this guy is everything that I could have asked for. Now is the moment we've all been waiting for, the articulation. So without further ado, we'll start from the head. The head can look up and down really far, and the head has this really cool gimmick where this part of the dorsal fin actually sinks into the neck itself so that it has more range. And it can move a bit side to side. The arm can rotate all around, it can swivel, and it even has double jointed elbows. No bicep swivel though, which is what made recreating the Ziperian Ray pose so hard to do. And the hand is on a ball joint and can swivel. Not much else there. The torso is on a ball joint and can move all around. The figure can't actually ab crunch that far, and while it can arc its back, it looks a bit weird. The waist is also on the ball joint and can move side to side. The legs can swivel around, the knees are double jointed just like the hands, and the feet can move up and down and even pivot. Would have liked if the toe could bend though. Overall, posability on this guy is great. Even if there's some parts I would have liked done differently, I'm just glad to have this level of articulation in an Ultraman figure at all. And it's so much fun to mess around with him that he's currently the model kit I've messed around with most since he feels super sturdy. He stands at around 6.5 inches, which I also counted is about 16.5 centimeters. To compare him with some other figures that I own, here he is next to Ultra Sofubi series Ultraman Trigger, Kotobukiya Mega Man Zero, and lastly, the Mecha Cull Getter 1 model kit. Finally, the crossover of my dreams is in the palm of my hand. Now, I don't have an SHF trigger, however I will give some brief comparisons on the two from what I've seen of it. Let's start with the prices. SHF trigger usually goes for around 138 ringgit, which is about 31 USD. Meanwhile, FRS trigger usually goes for around 114 ringgit, which is about 25 USD. So honestly, there's not too much of a difference between those two in terms of prices, so let's get into more specifics. The SHF trigger is a figure that's put together, looks nicer since it's also painted from the get-go, and even is more affordable compared to other Ultraman SHFs, however that comes at the cost of incredibly limited accessories. SHF trigger only comes with an alternate color timer when it comes to worthwhile accessories. It comes with alternate hands, sure, but alternate hands are kind of to be expected when you buy high-end action figures. If you want the Circle Arms multi-sword and the Ziperian Ray effect part for your trigger, then you have to buy SHF Trigger Dark and SHF Chimera just to complete it, which in turn makes it so that you have to sell your kidneys in order to not get a huge financial dent. FRS Trigger comes with more accessories and is cheaper due to the painting and assembly being done by yourself, but might not be everyone's cup of tea as model kits might be intimidating, which is why if I were to suggest either one, I'd say it comes down to preference. If you want a figure that's put together for you and you weren't going to display him with any accessories anyway, then you should get SHF Trigger. But if you like the process of building a model kit, then FRS Trigger is your best bet. Overall, this figure is everything I could have asked for in an Ultraman model kit. The articulation is great and lets you do virtually any pose with him. The accessories are really awesome, and the best of all is the simple process of building it. If you like model kits in Ultraman, I definitely recommend picking this up. I hope that they make more model kits of other mainline Ultras. I actually have a plethora of characters that I'd like to see, but if I had to pick just one, I'd say that I want to see Decker most. Since I like his design, he'd make a really nice companion piece for Trigger here. And besides, I think that Trigger and Decker is the best duo of all time. Though, I say all that despite the fact that I haven't actually finished watching Decker.